Hello and welcome to the channel. So I had some questions after the video I posted a couple of weeks ago where I was asked about how did I get the shot with the bell that had all of the lines in it. And this is basically accomplished by zooming while the camera is taking a photo. And so I thought I would just show you that process and how I go about doing it. Almost any camera can do it as long as you have a zoom lens and you have the ability to manually zoom. So if you have like the Lumix, some of the all-in-one cameras, it has a button that you have to push. You're not able to pull it off. But as long as you can manually zoom your lens, that's how it will work. And so the approach that I use is to first decide what do I want to have for the clean shot. And as we look around this area here, I can see I've got Christmas trees, I've got light poles, I've got a bunch of different things. But what I'm thinking that I'm going to want to use is probably going to be this ornament over here that there's a couple of people standing inside right now. So I'm going to go on the other side of it, I think, and we'll go and shoot through that. And I'm going to start by being zoomed all the way in, and then I'm going to zoom out and then hold that position for a couple of seconds. What that'll do is that will actually give me a really nice in focus part that everything is zooming out to. So let's just take a walk over there and get set up. Try not to get hit by a car. So I think this will actually come out pretty nice, and I think I want to do it from the other direction. In fact, why don't we just walk right through this? I think that'll be kind of cool looking. That wide angle lens, and kind of makes me wish I would have brought my fisheye. So to set up the shot, the thing to kind of remember is that anything in the center, and so I'm lining up pretty much like this, straight on. The pavers are helping a little bit, but anything that is in the center is going to come straight out. Everything else is going to either go up or to the sides depending upon where you have it. So the next thing to do is I want to get a nice 6-second exposure. That'll give me enough time to do the zoom. So I want to zoom in about 4 seconds and then leave the last 2 seconds at that spot. So the process actually goes exactly like this. I'm going to hit the shutter, and then I'm going to zoom, and then I'm going to wait for the photo to finish. Here is the resulting shot. Now notice that the small or zoomed out ornament is sharp and bright. In fact, it's the brightest thing in the photo, with the exception of maybe some of the street lights that are along the sides. But the reason for this is the camera was at the wide focal length longer than any other focal length within the frame. And that's always going to result in the brightest. And something you need to consider is that you may think that you are overexposing or setting your exposure to be overexposed, but the reality is, because you are changing that focus point, the things that are bright are going to be in a different spot on the sensor, and so you need to make some adjustments for that and shoot just a little bit brighter than perhaps you normally would. The zoomed in part, you might notice, is also just a bit brighter, and this is due to there's a little bit of a delay from when you can get from hitting that shutter button to when you actually get over to the zoom ring and start moving. So you get that little bit of delay, so it gives you a little bit of definition at that side too, which is pretty nice because then it gives you something on both ends that works. The area in between is where the brightness is really going to vary depending upon how fast you're zooming. A question might be, how do you keep the camera from refocusing once you press the shutter, or once you've gathered your focus and then press the shutter? In my case, I use back button focus. That means my shutter button's only purpose is to take the shot. Another option would be to turn off autofocus after you initially get focus. and then hit the shutter and zoom. Either way works just as fine. Since I have my camera set up for back button focus anyway, it's just easier for me to just do that. And of course, you can get multiple different types of effects depending upon how you're dealing with the zoom lens. So here's an example where I zoomed much slower. Now notice that in this case, the lines are really bright, almost uniformly so throughout the image. Now I zoomed so slow on this one that I didn't actually have time to pause at the end. And in fact, I was still zooming when the exposure finished. But it does give kind of an interesting look with having those lines being pretty much the same brightness all the way through. I also underexposed this one a little bit to make the dark areas darker. And to do that, I basically set up the exposure for what it would normally be if I was just taking a still. This shot shows what the exposure actually looked like. Notice how much brighter this is than what you saw in the shot where I zoomed. Another effect you can achieve is to pause at various points while zooming. I typically like to pause for about 2 seconds. I just counted off in my head, so it's probably a little bit less than that. But the whole idea here is you will zoom, pause, zoom, pause, zoom, pause. And so for a 6-second exposure, that will typically end up giving you 4 steps. And you can see that in this example where everything repeats, or all the elements repeat 4 times within the frame. So just kind of another interesting thing that you can do. Finally, what if I want the effect just moving in one direction? And this can get a little bit tricky until you realize that it's going to require some cropping afterwards. So if you want the movement from small to large moving to the right, then the subject needs to be positioned on the right side of the frame when you are zoomed all the way in. So notice in this example where I have the snowman placed. And then it's the same procedure as before. Zoom out, focus in this case on the snowman's face. Zoom in to frame up the shot. So basically where you want the larger image of the snowman to appear. Press the shutter, zoom out, wait for the photo to finish. And then after you get the photo back to your computer, then go ahead and crop to get the desired effect. One last question you may have is, why do the lines in all of these photos where you're zooming appear as dashes? And that's because these are all LED lights, and LED lights actually flicker. And so that's going to cause that to happen as well. So just something else to kind of keep in mind. The LEDs are not a continuous light source. They actually do have a flicker to them. So you will actually pick that up while you're doing it. Well, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned a new technique or two from it. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like. If you'd like to know about future videos, go ahead, hit that subscribe button and that little bell, and you'll be notified when I post something new. Thanks. Bye.